Hello everyone. This is Ettarnichi at Ali Dose of Inspiration. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you are in the world. And Ettarnichi always bring guests from all over the world to share story of hope, rebirth, and resiliency. By sharing that, we're just giving people hope and blueprint that their situation or their actual situation is not permanent, but it is a rejection that's happened, and they have to make the decision or the mindset to get out from that, and instead of staying as a victim, they can turn that as a victorious. So today I have my friend Norm Divarin here in New Brunswick, so not too far, and he's going to share with us his story of hope, rebirth, and resiliency. Welcome, my friend Norm.
Thank you, Ali. I love the introduction. First thing, I guess the way I'll begin with giving a little bit of my background. So my background is I live in close to Moncton, New Brunswick, just outside of Moncton, New Brunswick. And basically, I am a retired RCMP officer after 28 years in RCMP for people in the world. Sometimes they call us Mounties, basically the Royal Canadian Mounted Police.
Okay.
I did 28 years, spread out went to Quebec, to New Brunswick, to the Yukon. Great experience. However, it left quite a mark on my mental health. I enjoyed my career. I had a passion for it. But when I started in '87, basically, mental health issues for policing in general was not really known. Basically, they would tell us if something bothers you, have a slug of whiskey and forget about it and move on to the next day. Basically, so just stuff it down. And so it's easy to do when you don't have a lot of trauma in your mind, but once you start accumulating the trauma, it starts to get quite the peak of that mountain starting to be quite high. So basically what I did is that for me, I struggled very much with PTSD to the point that I almost committed suicide, not just once, but a few times.
Mm-hmm.
I came out of it because because the reason why I didn't commit the act in itself is mainly because of my family, because of my kids, because of my wife. They kept me basically grounded, that I didn't actually do the act itself.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, so at one point, yeah, Ali, if you want to ask questions in the meantime, by all
Mm-hmm.
means, I don't mind at all.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I went. Basically, I think inside myself, I knew there was something wrong, but I didn't want to admit it because in the police world, it's a very, what I call, and I put that in bracket, a very macho culture. And I'm not saying that because it's a man's world. It's saying that even the women had to have a macho attitude if you wanted to survive.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem with that is that when you have that and it starts to get instilled in your mind that this is the way you have to do it to survive,
Mm-hmm.
is that you don't realize how much you're stuffing down in your mind that actually will affect you years down the road. And even today, I've been retired now it'll be 6 years pretty soon, actually. And I still have very vivid memories from calls that I went in the 1990s and in early 2000 as well. So that really became an issue. And not only was it an issue for myself, but I brought all of that into my household. So it
Mm-hmm.
affected not only myself, but it affected my two kids, my two sons. It affected my wife as well without me realizing it. I realize it today.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, what I did to try to get better, because I'm a very proactive type of person,
Mm-hmm.
um, I didn't feel right staying where I was. But at one point, my wife gave me an ultimatum, basically go seek help or that she was going to leave me. And I just didn't want that to happen. So I went to see a psychologist when I was posted in the Yukon, the Great White Canadian North.
Mm-hmm.
And I went there backwards, I'll admit. But basically, I went there even with an open mind. Uh, with an open mind going backwards. So yeah, and then basically I went when I went there is that the psychologist was actually a very good psychologist. Her husband was an ex Royal Canadian Mounted Police, so
Mm-hmm.
she understood a little bit about the game, about the culture, about how we tend to stay to stick to ourselves and not open up to somebody from the outside circle. So
Mhm.
she was very, very patient, but she noticed actually after a few months that I was really struggling tremendously to verbalize what I had in my mind and what really bothered me. So
Mhm.
she actually suggested that I write it down.
Okay.
So the writing down was what I called my first step. What actually my book, as I wrote a book about this, and basically is that I called it verbal diarrhea, or it should have been written diarrhea, but basically it was anything that popped in my head. So when you read it afterwards, for me in my mind, it kind of made sense, but once you started reading it on paper, it was like, what the hell was I trying to explain there? I had no clue in certain areas. So but the psychologist assured that that's the way to go, and I kept doing it. And then at one point I decided, well, why don't I inform like the public?
Mhm.
So and then to go back a little bit, I guess the writing really helped me. It was a therapeutic exercise as well for me. My mental health, it helped a lot to really kind of set an avalanche of all the stuff that was in my mind, just to put it on paper, just to get it out there at least.
Mhm.
So yeah, so basically from there, I actually dropped the Facebook media app because for me it triggered me way too much and was getting the rage inside that I had coming out too much. So I needed to do a lot of, I guess, cleanup in my mind, and also like on the social media platform. The only social media platform I kept was LinkedIn
Okay.
because of it's more like professional people. And then basically what I did is that I thought there was a need for one, for the public to be aware of what it is really like to
Mhm.
be a police officer, not only by stating, you know what, we go to these types of scenes or those types of scenes or whatever. They need to know exactly what happens inside here by, you know, being in a job like that.
Mhm.
So I decided to write articles on LinkedIn, and LinkedIn articles. Actually, I wrote, I think it was 30 or 31. I'd have to check again. But from 2015, once I retired, all the way up to 2016, 2017, I wrote 30 some articles.
Really?
And
Wow.
basically, it was about explaining. Yeah. So it was called The Typical Police Officer, because the reason why I put it that way, because I started noticing that a lot of police officers felt exactly the way I was, and it didn't matter if you were a woman or a man. They just had the same type or similar type of mental health issues.
Mhm.
So I thought it was good, like, to have kind of a general title of a typical police officer. So basically, I started writing, but the more I wrote, like the first 2 or 3 articles, I was just like skimming on top of the water, kind of like a rock skipping on water, just
Mhm.
touching a little bit on the inside, but not really. And then I said, you know what? One of the tools I had when I was a police officer to try to connect even with the most violent people is that I always try to find an opportunity to get to these people that I dealt with on a regular basis when they were sober,
Mhm.
and I would connect with them. And the connection with them was for me to open up a little bit about my life, my personal life, not deeply personal, but at least a little bit.
Mhm.
And that I found I connected to another human being, whether they were criminals or whether they were somebody from the general public. So the idea, I'm telling this long story basically because what happened is that that's where I got the idea that, you know what, for people from the general public to really understand, I need to open up. Norm Deverin here has to open up emotionally.
Mhm.
And from then on, I started to open up, and I saw it really grabbed the attention of people. It really got people involved in the comments below my articles. And then from there, I said, well, why not a book? And that's where I got the book out. I wrote it with the help of a guy named Dave Ficeri from Surprise, Arizona, and he helped me edit it, all my articles, to put it in a book format. And then basically that's how my book of Invisible Wounds came about.
That's the
And
title, Norm? Invisible Wound?
it, it's Invisible Wounds. It's the emotional journey of a police officer's battle with PTSD.
Wow, that's powerful. Invisible Wound. That's really, say it right there, because invisible
Yeah.
is because really really powerful, because what you share with me here, my friend, is, especially man, we always tend to be like strong. We can share our emotion. We are tough. We are known for that. And the more we keep it inside, we don't realize we are really breaking ourselves. We might look strong from the outside, but inside is we are totally destroyed. And a lot of people, you see them, like they said, we are going to do some workout. But what about the work in that we are missing out?
Yeah,
And I really
that's
like
a good point, actually. Yeah,
we need some work in, like do some work in inside. and
absolutely, absolutely.
and just
And
dive
you're
in.
100% right, Ali. You're 100% right when you say that, because um, a lot of times, even when you look at even elite athletes, what do the sports psychologists say? You're out there, you're training in the gym, but you're not preparing yourself mentally enough. And the
And
same for like, yeah, and the same for like policing, is that we never, and it's not only policing, I think in general, we really, mental health was always a taboo subject. It
mhm,
doesn't matter if you're in policing or just somebody from the general public. I mean, my godmother actually committed suicide, way back.
mhm,
So at the time I said, just she was a little odd and blah, blah, blah. But at the same time, is that now I realize that no, there was a lot of trauma probably behind that. There was something else behind it
mhm.
than just being a little off. But it's just that we need to get the subject out there. And I'm really happy you invited me here, Ali, to be honest with you. And yeah, I think there needs to be more to be done, more to be said. And what you're doing here is great.
Thank you very much, my friend. It's the struggle is real, and a lot of people think that's depression or that's anxiety or even social disorder is something that we it can be taken easily. But those people who go commit suicide, they didn't commit suicide just because they like it, but that's their only way to express or to find a cure for the pain, because the struggle is real, the pain is real, and a lot of people don't really talk about it. And I like when you mentioned it at the beginning, it's like a taboo, especially like coming for RCMP. They are known to be like our protector, our guard. They are there to be tough, they were strong, beside they are man. So they
Mhm.
are man already, they can't say I am going to say a psychologist or I'm going to be open. Beside they are RCMP, which is a symbol of being strong, be tough, be
Mhm.
really a symbol of like manhood or whatever. But it's the
Yeah.
invisible one is something that's really we should, and I really salute you and applaud you for being brave and sharing your story, because people need to hear that, Norm. People need to be open. People need to share, because the more, like if we take like a bottle and we just keep
Mhm.
filling it up with bad stuff like gas or whatever, and there is no way to let some air go out, definitely will explode. Something for us human, like if we just suppress everything, suppress it, one day if we don't find an ear to talk to or someone to listen to us, we are just going to explode. An invisible one is just the title, because I can't wait to read the book, because invisible one is powerful. And I'm sure there is like a lot of story that's there, that inside what is going inside. And you mentioned also, Norm, that what keep you is your son and your wife.
My two sons and my wife, family, and that's one thing I think it's very important, is that it doesn't matter if you have a family or if you have a good group of friends or you have colleagues you really, really trust, is
Mhm,
that to manage PTSD, I guess, the invisible wounds, to manage that, you definitely need, amongst other things, but you need a good peer support group. You need somebody you can trust, that you can open up and actually be honest with them how you truly feel. And that's what we trust each other in policing to back us up if something goes wrong.
mhm,
But we never ever talked about, what, I feel like a little suicidal today. I never heard any other police officer tell me that, and I definitely never said that. But
mhm.
you brought up a good example too, with the you put in gas or whatever, like negative stuff in a bottle. Eventually, the pressure is going to want to release, and it's going to blow. You can't just keep filling up the bottle. Eventually, it'll blow up.
Mhm.
My book actually talks about how it doesn't talk about, it actually explains how how can I say this? I don't want to sound like Superman. I was going to say mild mannered, but
Mm-hmm.
um, how can a shy, non-confrontational kid become a person, a human being, wearing a police uniform, but I am still a human being that actually can become very violent within the flick of a switch, like a light switch.
Mm-hmm.
So how did that happen? There's something that happened in between those times, because you don't turn into a shy, non-confrontational kid into a violent person at the flick of a switch just like that you know in 15 or 20 years
Mm-hmm.
of difference in age. So, and that's what the book does. It explains what my theory is from my experience. I'm not a doctor by any means. I'm not a psychologist, a psychiatrist, but I did a lot of reading because I wanted to understand my PTSD, and I wanted to, keep walking on this earth, and I wanted to enjoy life. So how do I do this? Well, I got to start being proactive. I got to start doing some searches, and I got to start listening to my psychologist. And I got to be honest with my psychologist too, because when I first started, that was the other thing too, is that because of that macho culture that was so ingrained into myself, I never really opened up until way, like maybe a year and a half after I was seeing psychologists. And then I realized, and I did the same thing actually with the psychologist I have now here in Moncton, because it's not the same one. I had to have another one reassigned. At first I thought, well, there's not much good going on, but then the more I reflected is that, well, I'm not really giving her a chance either, because I'm not opening up, because I was so used to the other one in the Yukon that now it
Mm-hmm.
was almost like step one again. And that was a difficult, I'll tell you, it was actually difficult, but I'm glad that I actually went through it. But, and that's the thing, you have to give yourself a chance, and you have to admit that you have a problem, that you have an issue. And I shouldn't say a problem, because it's not a problem. It's, most of the time it's something that's not your fault. It could be somebody that was sexually assaulted for years. It's
Mm-hmm.
not their fault. They're 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, or 9, or 10 years old, or they're kids.
Mm-hmm.
So I shouldn't say it's a problem. I say it's actually I should say it's a symptom from experiences in life, negative experiences in life.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to admit that these things bother you. And it's almost like an alcoholic. Until that alcoholic admits that they have a problem, they're never going to start the path of healing. The same
Mm-hmm.
with PTSD. You can deny, 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 but as long as you deny, you're never going to start your healing.
Mm.
So,
Love that. 100%. It's a pattern because the more we deny it, the more we are running away from who we are. And when we accept it,
yep.
that's what you did, Norm. You said when you see the psychologist, you said I have to be honest with her. And before I be honest with her, I have to be honest with myself and open up. And it's a pattern. It's starting from childhood. And when we really go back to our childhood, we try to open one knot at a time, one knot at a time, till we become like, because through the journey we almost kind of we are kind of putting a mask to hide or try to avoid. I've been there. I had the depression, I have an anxiety for a couple of years, and let me tell you, like, I couldn't even look at the mirror. It's not that I'm ugly or I can't look at myself, but I couldn't look at the person that is hiding or facing himself. And the moment I try to do the inward work, the moment I try to really face it and be honest with myself, I saw psychologists. And at the beginning, I used to go to psychologists. I used to tell him something, and the reality is totally something else. And they say, "Why I'm paying all this money and just go and giving it to him like that without being really real with myself?" Then I
hmm
realized I
hmm
have to open up. And I took medication. I took all that stuff. And it didn't help. It helped for a moment, but it made me not the person that I want to be. Then I realized, you know what?
Yeah.
I have to face what's going on by myself. I'm
hmm
not recommending this to anybody, but I quit cold turkey on all those medication and stuff. And I start, like, when I shared the battle from the beginning, suppress everything. I was not listening to the voice was inside of who I am. I was not really listening to my gut feeling. I was not listening to the talent that I have. I was kind of like just ignoring all those capacity, those potential that I have, and pretending to be someone that I wasn't. And the moment I start to listen to the voice and listen to my own advice and make a connection with myself, I start to become like me. I start to find my voice. I start to speak up. I start to really like to look at the mirror and said, You can't stop me now from looking in the mirror. I start like, but that is just like, it's almost like a copy and the original thing. And people,
Yeah.
which one will buy? They will buy the original for sure, because the copy worth less. And the more we
Mhm.
become like original, and we become who we are, and show the world who we are, instead of just hiding. And I just go to the point that you shared RCMP at the beginning, like there is a mutual culture that we have to show that we are tough and stuff, but there is a lot of stuff going inside that need to be
Yeah.
shared, that need to be open. And that's the thing, that's why we are sharing that Ali Dose of Inspiration, those story, just so people can hear it, get used to it, that they are not
Yes.
alone going through this. There is other people that they face it, and they manage to get out from that by being open, by connecting. Even if you can share it with the world and go publicly, share it with a friend, share it with the wife, share it with someone you trust. That's
Yeah, because you're 100% right, Ali. I mean, I love the way you talk. It's very how can I say this? Like, you feel motivated just by listening to you and all that. And the way I see it too is that, well, for me, anyways, for the book, the way I wrote it is that when I did some research on books written by police officers, like biographies and memoirs and all that,
mhm.
is that I really didn't find any books actually, except one or maybe two, that actually were police officers that actually opened up emotionally.
Okay.
99.9% of the books written by police officers, because of, they talk about the calls they went to. They are very descriptive in detailing how this body was mutilated. Like they'll show the readers what it's really like to see this. So they'll be very detailed in that, but then they won't say how it affected them to see this mutilated body. They'll just move on to the next call. There
Hmm.
was one actually book written by a police officer from New Zealand. He opened up more emotionally, but it was about one traumatic incident that he went through.
Okay.
I wanted to show more what the whole career does to a police officer, not just one traumatic event. So basically, by writing the book, by opening it up, I am hoping that eventually people, especially police officers, will say, shoot, you know what? He opened up. Maybe I can open up too.
Hmm.
And kind of encourage that, you know what? Yeah, I'm a man, and we're told that, like you were saying a while ago, Ali, we're told, to be tough, that, we're men. We're supposed to be the providers, the protectors, and all that. We're supposed to be tough, like tough skin.
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, we're all made the same. We all have emotions. And really, uh, it really contradicts, I guess, if I can use that word, what we should be as human beings. And by teaching us to be tough and all that, it's we're basically, the men, we're not helping ourselves mental health wise at all. So by opening up, I guess I'm kind of hoping that other men will see this and saying, geez, he went through it, he's still alive, he's doing podcasts with Ali, my God, I mean, why not? Why can't I open up as well, right?
Hmm.
So I'm kind of hoping, that's my ultimate goal, is that eventually other men will open up as well. It's not only that, but that to me would be very,
Hmm. Hmm.
very, very good for me, anyways.
Hmm. I see your point. The same thing for me. If we have someone that listening to this, and we help one person from not
Yeah.
committing suicide, or from just changing their mind, that they want to talk to a psychologist, or they want to talk to their friend, to be able to open, because there is a lot of, especially now with COVID-19 and a lot's going on, Norm. It's a lot of people. There's a lot of stuff going on. A lot of mental illness like on the rise. A lot of suicides happening. And if just one person, if we just saved one person just by listening to this message of hope, those rebirth and resiliency and hope story, that's a win. That's a win, because we need to be the ripple effect that start, and the ripple effect start just with from circle and keep getting big and big and big. Like you mentioned about human, we are all human, and we have weakness, we have emotion, and emotion come and go. It's not like going to stay all the time, but we are missing the tools, we are missing the skill set. We have a saying in Morocco that say, ask the person who goes ask the patient, not the doctor. because because the patient went through it and experienced it, and they
Yep.
tell you how it
Yep.
felt. It's like
Yep.
it's a tool that's and each one journey is different. It's not the same. Like what Norm went through is not the same one Ali went through, or not the same other person went through. But it's just like, just be open, just share. Uh, about the book, Norm, Invisible Wand. What make you what make
Mhm.
you decide to choose the name? Because invisible, it's something that's it's really inside, and the wound is like need treatment, need care, need to heal. Love
Well,
the
basically, you hit the nail on the head. You basically stole my idea there, Ali.
no, I just like I like the name, honestly, that because that's so
No,
that's what came
but
into my mind when
uh,
I hear invisible wound.
yeah, me and the editor actually went through probably about 20 different titles, and this is the one we came up with because we thought it really fit what the material was inside the book more.
Hmm.
And you're 100% right. It is invisible because I can act like I am today. Today I could feel like really down in the dumps, but I've gotten so used to acting that I'm okay that it's almost like an automatic thing. So you can't see how I'm actually feeling good today. So that's not the issue. But I mean, I could act the same as I am today, even if I'm in a really dark hole. It's just when I'm alone, that's when everything comes back crashing down. And I build up a little bit of the walls up when I meet somebody. But
Hmm.
then as soon as I done with the conversation, it falls back down. So, but people don't see it. I feel it, but people don't see it. They'll see if I got a huge cut on my arm, if I've got a cast over my arm, they say, what happened? But if I act always that I'm okay, people won't see how much I'm suffering. And the same for anybody that has mental health issues. Same thing. And you're right, everybody goes through their own personal journey in this PTSD, but there's a lot of similarities in between them. What a sexual assault victim feels, I'm sure that I could find some of the stuff that that person feels that I feel similarly or the same, maybe,
Hmm.
because the mind basically works a certain way. We're all different experience. Like you're saying, we all have different skills, different tools to deal with it. Some don't, and those are the people that I think that are in most danger. But again, if you could at least start with just a peer support group of your choosing, not from your employer's choosing, you. So if you feel like Ali is a good friend, I can rely on Ali, I can trust Ali, by all means, start small. Start by saying a few things that are a little bit personal, like I did when I was policing. And then if you see that goes well, get to the next step. Even my articles on typical police officer, I didn't open up completely. It was a progression. So I wouldn't recommend jumping in like you jump in cold water, but
Hmm.
little steps at a time. And before you know it, your circle of trust or your circle of comfortableness has widened by a lot without you even realizing.
100%, 100% Norm. And I like the way you start. You said you start just by writing it down, just journaling. That's a big
Mm-hmm.
step. Nobody will see those papers. You
Mm-hmm.
just write down everything, write it down. At least it's out of your chest. And from writing it down, maybe share with your wife or with your close
Yep.
friend, like not anybody, but close friend.
Mm-hmm.
There is, there is,
Yep.
there is an Egyptian proverb said, there is if a rope, we have like three rope, and one of them is the rope of telling our secret to people. And sometimes we share some good, like some deep secret with our friend, and if they are
Mm-hmm.
not really good friend, they can pull us with those rope and we become almost like slave to them. And we have to choose who we share with, and before you become vulnerable, share it with the people you trust. Trust is very important,
Yeah.
and the reason why we hide it for so long, because we feel ashamed about it, or we feel not comfortable enough to share it. So just because it's eating inside so much, so we find someone just to share with us, maybe just by letting it out. So first step, write it down, share it with someone that you really trust, or even just join a group that is having the same maybe issue or the same problem, and just have a conversation that will make it at least coming from hair to hair, and by circulating it become less hair.
Yes,
100,
100%.
100%, my friend. And by being RCMP, my friend, like it's we know, like it's invisible wound. Invisible wound is it's powerful. It's just like it's as I said, like I'm really looking to read it, Norm, and there is a lot of wound, not just RCMP, but in the army, even in different places. But we just want to open the conversation, the honest dialogue, let's say honest dialogue, that people will hear that by
Hmm.
sharing those thoughts, by sharing, just by talking about it, because the thing that being shared, the thing that being talked up, how many times you see some like let's say advertising on the TV, you see it all the time, repeating, you get used to it, and without realizing you start talking about it without even realizing, because you hear it all the time. So if we start talking about mental illness, suicide, all that stuff, it become like something not a taboo. It become like I would go back to my country, like my culture from Morocco, Arab and stuff like that. Anybody go to a psychologist will look at as if someone like he's crazy, and people
Yeah.
go hiding before, so nobody see them, because if somebody see them, they will everyone point the finger at them. He's crazy,
Hmm.
careful, he's crazy and stuff like that, and it's unfortunate. Like if you have a diabetes, or if you have a heart, or you disease, or you go see a doctor and they give you medication, they give you pills. What's about like mental illness? What's about depression? What's about that? It's the same thing. What's the difference? It's just because we kind of put it in a category that you are not allowed to talk about it, and it's become unfortunate. We need to change that stigma. We need to change that perspective. When you look at when you change your perspective, you change your angle, and you change the way you look at things.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Another thing that I used to do, still do, but not as much, but I used to do a lot when I was still struggling, because like everything else, the more you have tools to deal or manage PTSD, the better you are, right?
Mm-hmm.
And one thing that I noticed too is that for me, walking in nature, whether it's walking along the beach or walking in the woods, was very therapeutic as well. So
Mm-hmm.
I could have a really, really bad day. My running helped a lot as well. Just to get, a 3 to 5 kilometer run out there, just to get flush everything out, getting the endorphins in there, the happy, the happy natural drugs.
Mm-hmm.
And basically, yeah. So there's a lot of stuff that I've learned through my path that really helped me calm down, um, when I had those, when I felt like inside that I was going to have a bout with that rage again. So a lot of times I just walk. I have a dog as well, and walking with the dog, seeing him run in the woods when there's, it's not a trail. There's a lot of people, so I can let him loose. That just by staying in the moment really helps a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Meditation, I started that just lately, actually, 2021. That was my next tool that I wanted to master. So I started doing that, and it's going really well. Actually, it's just I need to do it more often, so it becomes more naturally.
Mm-hmm.
But that again, there's nothing that comes in this world that nothing that there's nothing that you're going to have that you won't have to work for. If you do, consider yourself lucky. But it's just something for me. I look at it is that I need to do this if I want to stay and I want to walk on this earth.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I like that. You said open up emotionally, walking in nature, journaling, running, staying in the moment, and meditation. Those all nice tip for people to start doing. And journaling as is a big thing, because you are kind of talking to yourself and writing to yourself. I know this topic is it take days and days and days to talk about, and it's amazing. I don't want to finish this conversation, but time is up. What is some of the tips, or what is some of the thing that last word to share with this beautiful audience that
I
to us?
I am going to put this out there, Ali, for anybody that listens to this. If you want to get a hold of me, I wouldn't mind Ali putting my name, so that you guys can spell it properly, because Deverin is not an easy name to remember. And basically, just look for me on LinkedIn. If you have any questions, any comments, or anything like that, just reach to me on LinkedIn. Um, I usually accept. I would say 99% of the time, I usually accept people that reach out to me.
Mhm.
The only ones I don't is when I start looking and I don't like what I see of what they post. Then I'll say, you know what, I don't need that. And that is more like for me managing my PTSD as well, because I don't want that aggravation just to say, yeah, okay, I'm going to be a nice guy and accept you. But I would say 99.9% of the time I'll accept you. And if you don't want to be part of my community on LinkedIn, that's fine. Just reach out to me with a message anyways and ask me a question or make a comment. I welcome that.
Excellent. And if people want to buy your book or stuff like that, so they can, is there
Yeah.
like a way or a website or?
If you want to print that also on the screen, the full title, and it's on Amazon Book. You have the ebook and you also have the paperback.
Okay, excellent. I will get those information from you, Norm, after, and they can share it as a caption when I share this
Okay.
episode. And yes, it's amazing. And yeah, I agree with you 100%. Like our vision, sometimes we have to see who align ourselves with, because we can't accept everyone in our life, because energy and vision, you align people that will kind of support you and help you. And it's a tribe or community that will help your mental health and your physical health and all that. So thank you very much, my friend Norm, for being open, for being vulnerable, and for sharing your story. And I really appreciate you being with us today.
I really appreciate you inviting me, Ali.
Thank you very much.
Always great to talk to you.
Thank you very much. And thank you very much, this beautiful audience. Ali Dose of Inspiration always brings story of hope, rebirth, and resiliency, and guests from all over the world. Until then, see you next time.